And we are back with another Monday preview. Guys, hockey is back. The dog days are over. And we're starting with a banger this week because we get to see Seth Jones. I get to see Tomo Rutu, as I yap about on a weekly basis. And we're starting off with Rod from Cats and Bolts. Thank you so much for coming on.
Angela, good to see you again. I'm very excited. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. And first off, how was another summer with the Cup?
It was exciting. I spent the summer in Canada, so I haven't, and I didn't make it to a Stanley Cup party, but it looks like the Cup didn't miss me. It's still making the rounds here, so I think it'd probably be ready to get out of somewhere as hot as this, but 6 straight Stanley Cup finals in the state of Florida. We're getting spoiled.
Yeah, you're getting very, very spoiled. But we love to see it. Let's see. First off, with the summer, there were a lot of big questions kind of as the season ended and you guys won the Cup. Did you expect Bill Zito to pull off the masterclass that he did in getting everybody taken care of? Were you confident that he would get it done and everybody would stay? Or were you figuring that, maybe certain pieces would go, maybe one piece would stay? What was your kind of like expectation going into the offseason with all these contracts up in the air?
At this point, I don't doubt anything the man says. And on the ice, right after they won the Stanley Cup, he was asked, I was watching it on Hockey Night in Canada. I was in Canada, and he was asked, are you going to be able to sign the big three, Ekblad, Bennett, and Marchand? And he just kind of winked and said, I think we're going to be able to find a way to do it. And the second, he's been here since 2021, Angela, and everything he said he's going to do, he's done. So at this point, I don't know how they were going to do it. And Marchand, of course, trolled everybody last week when he met the media and said, let's be honest, if it wasn't for the non-income tax in this state, they wouldn't have been able to do. I don't care. I just talked about this on my show today. I don't like to talk about salaries and what I call contract Tetris. How's that all going to fit? Mm-hmm. He found a way, period. And pretty much everybody was back. At least the guys they wanted to have back are back. So the second he said he was going to do it, I didn't doubt that he was going to be able to do it.
As an outsider, I was very impressed. I kind of, I was expecting maybe one piece. I wasn't sure on who would go. But just because I was very used to from the Chicago dynasty of every time we won a cup, we flipped 50% of our roster for the following year because everybody would leave. Yep. But yeah, that's great for Florida that everybody's staying. Speaking of the boys in Florida, we've got some big injuries to the start of the season with Sasha Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk. Of course, Barkov out, expected longer than Matthew. This is a giant hole for the roster, obviously. But what is your kind of expectation kind of going into the beginning of the season with these two guys out? How big of a hole is that going to be for the Florida
by the way, you make an unbelievable point about players leaving because I remember that first Stanley Cup championship for the Blackhawks. Within a day, Troy Brouwer was gone. And I think within 2 days, Buffalin was gone. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And that was the first, from what I remember, being a hockey fan my whole life, of teams breaking up. That 2010 Blackhawks, so, and maybe the Panthers are swinging it back. I don't know. But now with these injuries, here's how I found out about Barkov getting hurt. It was his very first day of practice last Thursday, and a friend texted me and goes, there goes the 3, Pete. And I immediately did a quick search. I'm like, what's he talking about? Oh. Again, I don't know if you saw the video of Barkov going down. It was 5-year-olds have gone down with less of an injury or more of an injury than that. However you want to say it. It was so harmless. I guess, I don't know if you've been down here, Angela, or not. And if not, you have to. But it's become a real fun hockey market. So the day of the surgery, the Panthers said he was going to be gone 7 to 9 months. But then somebody informed me today, Barkov told the coach of the Heat, Eric Spoelstra, that he's going to be back in 6 months. I'm like, how did this happen? Where were they together? Did they cross paths in the hospital or something? But whatever. Everybody's talking about basically that they think Barkov's going to be back early. But everything's got to go right. But I think we've all seen in the days of the miracles of modern medicine, as they say, I would say anything's possible. And in the case of Tkachuk, I think about that a lot because he fought Valentine's Day. I'll never forget. In the Four Nations face-off is when he got hurt, and he didn't play again until the playoffs. And then when he did come back, he wasn't the same. You watched the playoff run. He was not skating the way that he did. He wasn't hitting. He wasn't himself. He was still effective, or else he wouldn't have played. And then we find out that he had a sports hernia and a torn abductor, which I don't even think I have an abductor. Like, it was very obscure injuries. And I'm like, well, man, this guy's tough to have played through that. It's going to be till Christmas, they say, till he's back. So the question is just, can they stay above their head above water? It's a tough division, I think. But I will say this, not to go on too far, but Bill Zito said last Saturday, I was at his news conference, he's like, Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart, Anton Lundell, Brad Marchand, like, they're still a very good team. So we'll see how they fare. But as it stands right now, they're not going to go out and sign somebody. I mean, rosters are committed right now. We're at the first week of the regular season. Who's out there? Nobody really.
That was going to be one of my questions of, are they going to, that's a decent amount of cap space that opens up with Barkov and Tkachuk going out, but also with the cap changes in terms of like having to be at the cap, like not above the cap level by certain points. It kind of throws. It's a little bit different this year. I have been down to Florida, though. Funny enough, me and Krusty, my dad, we did a duo with the Panthers and Tampa because they were down there for the whole weekend. It was the season that the Panthers went to the finals and lost. And it was like February, March. And I still can't believe that February, March, the entire stadium's chanting to fire Paul Maurice. And then they make it to the cup.
Good memory. Really good memory. They don't like to be reminded of that around here.
No.
And that was a tough first season for Paul because up until about Christmas and obviously a little after, it wasn't going too well. He was trying to install a new system and the Panthers weren't used to playing his system, which, to be honest, I mean, I know that you know hockey well enough. It's an exhausting, not fun system to play. Yeah. They're physical, 200 feet of the ice. It's exhausting. It's demanding, and it didn't go over real well. But we've seen the results since. But again, the Panthers fans, they don't like to talk about that. I actually forgot about that because if I brought it up, I'd be trounced here.
I was more, when that happened, I was just more taken aback because, like, we've hated coaches in past, after Quenneville, we've had kind of like a round robin of different coaches. Hopefully Blashill sticks a little bit longer than some of the other ones that we've had in the past, but we've never had the entire stadium booing or like wanting to fire a specific coach. So I was more just surprised than anything. That did happen. But I mean, even last year around Thanksgiving, they were booing them at home. I think they lost 4 or 5 in a row. But I mean, I'm anti that. I'm a career sports guy. I just hate seeing people boo their own team, but kind of speaks to the fickle nature of this club, of the Panthers. Lightning fans aren't like that, but I'll tell you this. I was so impressed in Chicago when we were there in January because the Blackhawks were already out of the running in mid-January, and it was a Saturday night against Vegas. That place was rocking, and your anthem singer was singing from the bottom of his toes, man. I'm like, I'd never been there before, but this is unbelievable. What was it like when the Hawks were good? Gosh, I missed it every day.
Yeah,
you couldn't hear yourself cheering during the anthem when it was good. You couldn't hear Jim on the ice. You couldn't hear anybody. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was wild that night. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's one thing. Even with as bad as we are, we'll still always have a packed house, at least fingers crossed going into the season. Do you think, going back to Barkov and Tkachuk injury real quick, do you think, because obviously we hope that they come back sooner than expected, but come back the correct way, do you think them coming back like sooner or later will have anything to do with whatever position the Florida Panthers are in come like January or like pre-Olympic time? Like if they're rocking the top of the division, everything's fine. You figure they might be like, hey, keep resting.
I think that'll have a lot to do with it. I think that'll have a lot to do with it. The one thing I keep hearing the most is they don't want to bring them back early.
Right.
So they'll be very cautious of that, but also mindful of the standings. And obviously, Paul Maurice has a pretty good handle on a feel for how things are going to go, because I'll be honest, after Tkachuk got hurt at the Four Nations faceoff, which again was Valentine's Day, he was resting guys for the next 2 months. He didn't care that they were dropping like a stone in the standings. And believe me, the fans here were getting really worried about that. But Paul knew the most important thing was being healthy. And then we saw what happened come playoffs. They just like flipped a switch and they just destroyed Tampa. It was like a far more dominant run last year's Stanley Cup final championship than the year before. But I mean,
definitely.
They brought in Seth Jones. They brought in Brad Marchand and Marco Sturm and stuff. And, there was a big question around here was, which is the better team? Last year's team or the year before? I said, well, if they don't win the Stanley Cup, we have their answer. And it was like Edmonton was barely in that Stanley Cup final. The Panthers cleaned their clock.
No, definitely. Yeah, they were definitely more dominant this year. I kind of even feel bad, not really, for the Tampa Bay Lightning and for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because those matchups were great matchups to watch as an outsider fan. Granted, I do have slight allegiances to the Florida Panthers because of Tomo Rutu. But it was like the Tampa Bay Lightning played so much better than to just be a first round exit. Like that matchup with that intensity could have easily been later on in the playoffs. They just had the unfortunate instance of running into the Panthers first.
Tampa finished ahead of Florida in the regular season. Like it was just odd that it only went 5 games. I went to every game, and that's 2 years in a row that the Panthers wiped the ice with Tampa. As far as the Leafs, I don't think I'm ever going to feel sorry for them. It's funny to watch them lose. I'll tell you, a few years ago, the Panthers played the Bruins in the playoffs, and then they played the Leafs. Whatever year it was. And I got to be friends with the ushers and security guards and stuff at American Bank Arena. And they said, what are we going to get from these Leaf fans? And I said, that are coming down here. And I said, what do you mean? Well, the Bruins fans are drunk and loud. We had to throw 37 of them out last game. I said, Leaf fans aren't going to cause you a problem. They're just annoying. They're going to, an hour and a half before the game, they're going to be beating on the doors to get in. And then when they lose, they'll be sitting in their seats crying, and you're going to have to physically pick them and throw them out. And that's exactly what happened. So it was a 7-game series last year, but I mean, let's not forget the Leafs were up 2-0 and they kicked the crap out of the Panthers in the first 2 games. Yeah. And then Florida just woke up and took the series over. So, but that's not the team we're going to have coming back at the start for the Panthers for sure.
That's okay. The Panthers are built for the playoffs, not the beginning of the season. Going to some of the newer additions, because you guys picked up quite a few new additions during the trade deadline and slightly before the trade deadline. And being a Chicago podcast, I've got to ask, what is your opinion and evaluation on the Seth Jones in the Florida Panther system?
Better than I thought he'd be. And that's not an insult in any way. But when I saw him play in Chicago, he was, by far and away their best defenseman, one of their best players. And I didn't like what he said. You know what I'm talking about. After wherever it was in Arizona or was it Utah, whatever, about how the team had quit and he didn't like being there. He was gone a week later. So I just didn't like those comments. But then he's here playing 30 minutes a night. That coincided with Aaron Ekblad getting suspended for the PED test. Right. So, and then there's this conspiracy theory here that the Panthers knew that the Ekblad thing was coming. So they went and got Seth Jones. I don't know whether that's true or not. It sure looks like it. Seth Jones has been amazing. And the only problem they have is trying to find out who's going to play on the power play, because him and Ekblad are both right-handed shots, right-handed D, and they're both very good in that spot. But that is a good problem to have. So, and the other thing I got to say, I don't think Seth Jones has stopped smiling since he got here. It's kind of a Florida thing. Everybody's happy here. You might have noticed that. Yeah. Aside from the people booing Maurice, he really seems to like it here. So that's another big plus.
No, I think he's, with all the different teams that he's been on, I'm just happy to, one, I'm happy to see him happy. And 2, I'm happy to see him on a good team. The poor man's been bounced around from mediocre team to really bad team for the majority of his career. But with that, the other side of that trade was us getting your dear Spencer Knight. going into this season, what is your kind of prediction, expectation with Florida's goalie tandem with Spencer Knight out of the equation?
Well, I was waiting for the K word, and we're 15 minutes in that it came up. Look, I'll get to the Panthers goalie situation in a second, but the other night at the preseason game, I was sitting with a guy in the press box. Let's just call him a goalie guy. I don't want to say his name. And he's like, oh, all the hype of Bedard coming in here next week. Let's not forget Spencer Knight's coming back. And I said, oh, yeah. And I said, what do you think about that? He goes, it concerns me. Sort of like that Spencer's going to stand on his head coming in here. And it's not like, believe me, he did not leave on bad terms. I don't really think they wanted to part with him. I don't, but you got to give up something to get something. Mm-hmm. And I'm pulling for Spencer Knight, but he'd been around here for a long time. First round pick in 2019, whatever. That's not what you asked me. We'll get back to that. But the thing with Bob, he's going to play 65 games. And I did have this talk with Paul Maurice a week ago or so. And I just said, how important is the backup job behind Bob? He goes, it's critically important. No, it's not. You've had a different backup every year for the last 5 years. It's not that important. But I get that why Paul would think it's that important.
Right.
The job of the guy that sharpens skates is critically important too, but anybody can do it. So, I mean, right now off the top of my head, there's, 7 goalies in camp, or the open camp with 7 goalies, Bob and 6 others. But it looks like it's going to be Daniil Tarasov. He's been ridiculous in the preseason. So I think that's the guy that'll win the job. How long he sticks around here for, I don't know, because Bob's not slowing down. He's going to be 38. He's going to be a free agent next year, but I don't think he'll get to free agency. I really can't see him leaving Florida. But I love him. I was a goalie, just so you know, Angela. Because the Panthers are so good to me, and I had the chance to interview Bob the other night, and I said, Bob, these young goalies are saying that they're learning from you. Are you telling them things? Are they just watching you? He turns and looks at me, Scott square to me, and he goes, well, I don't know about that. Maybe they're watching, but I learned from them also. I'm like, what a first-class guy.
That's awesome.
I know. I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Bob leaves Florida. He seems like Seth. Everyone just seems to be very happy there. And
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like he's had quite a bit of a resurgence with his career being in Florida. Like before, when he was on other teams, it was kind of just more of a if he can perform. And now that he's in Florida, it's kind of like, no, Bob is going to stand on his head because that's what he's been doing.
Did you see the highlights of the game the other night? The saves that he made? He made 1, 2, 3 saves in succession, like bing, 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 make it like the typical Bob flopping around, almost Hasek style saves. I'm like, Bob, it's preseason. Calm down. But that's just the way that he is. Whether it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup or his first exhibition start, he's going to play, do all that he can do. So, yeah, it's going to be Bob and some guy, to answer your question. That'll be the goaltending tandem.
Fair enough. And then what is your because we'll probably talk further into the season and with Tampa and stuff, but for at least the first couple of months, let's say until like the holidays, what is your expectation / prediction with the Florida Panthers?
Well, for one, I don't even look at the standings until at least Thanksgiving, usually the New Year. So as far as their own record, I'd be real happy if they were 500. Where that puts them in the standings, I don't know. But those are some pretty serious injuries to overcome. And at this point, we don't know who they're going to get. Like I floated it out on my podcast today, Cats and Bolts. Jeff Chickern was on, former NHLer, and I said, what do you think of going and getting Sidney Crosby? And he was like, the salary's about the same. And who knows if he's going to actually be available or not. I mean, I'm talking about a first-line center. It's what Barkov does. He's a leader. And Chikrin's like, well, what's the asking price going to be for a guy like Sidney Crosby? And does he really want to leave? So my point is they're going to spend a month, Angela, trying to figure out what they have and who's going to fill that role and from within. And if nobody does, then they're going to have to go out and make a trade. But at this point, I don't even think they're there yet. I'm sure they're working feverishly behind the scenes to see who's available and who fits, but I don't think they're anywhere near yet on a decision. And for that reason, they're going to struggle, I think, early on.
Which segues very nicely into my final question. Obviously, the injuries with Matthew and Barkov are kind of substantial, as we've been talking about. Is that the biggest hurdle that the Florida Panthers are going to face this season? Or do you suspect it's something else, like roster, mentality, anything? What do you think is their biggest hurdle as a team for this season?
Well, that is by far their biggest challenge. And then the other one might be keeping them hungry. I don't know. Paul talked about that last year. He's like, we've already won the Stanley Cup. And it was a challenge for him. He'd never won a Stanley Cup before either. How do you repeat? How do you keep them motivated? And going into the camp, all the talk was, do the Panthers three-peat? And now there's no talk of that. You're not hearing that from anybody. The expectations are off, like the bubble burst. So, yeah, I think it's just getting through to Christmas and seeing what Barkov's rehab is. What's the issue? That's really about it. What I'm saying is the story would have been the pressure of three-peating. Nobody's done it since the Islanders. There was all that talk. Nobody's done this since the Islanders, 80 to 83, right? And now nobody even thinks that they can. So the one talk coming out of the training camp, the news conference I was at, was rallying around this in the dressing room. Because you have to understand, Barkov isn't just another guy. Like, he's been here forever. He's the guy. He is the second longest serving Panther behind Ekblad. Everybody loves him in the community. He lives not far from me. He goes to all the FAU Owls basketball games. He is Joe Community. He goes to so many hospital visits. They know him by name there. All the staff, like he's the soul of the team. So that's enough to overcome, let alone any other problems. But you said that was the last question, so I just got to say I'm so excited to see Connor Bedard in here. I actually have friends coming down from Canada that are friends of the Bedard family staying here. We're really excited about that hockey game. And then, of course, Spencer Knight's return. I'm going to be banging that drum a lot because nobody's really talking about it. And they should be, because he was really beloved here for he didn't play a lot. But for whatever reason, the fans loved him.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And, it's the beginning of hockey season. That's really everything to get excited over.
Finally. It's been a long summer. Yeah.
It's been a very long summer. Well, Rod, thank you so much for coming on. Hope we have a good matchup next week with Chicago and Florida. It should be interesting. And our next one up for this first Monday preview of the 2025-2026 season is the Boston Bruins. We'll play Boston on Thursday, October 9th. Boston last year had a bit of a slump. They finished 8th out of 8 in the Atlantic last year in terms of standings. A lot of people, and this will kind of be the bigger theme going into this season, a lot of people are debating whether or not is Boston set for a rebuild. Is this kind of the end of the run Boston had, or is this kind of like a 1 to 2 year sort of like slump to get some high draft picks and then we're back? That has still yet to be determined. I think that it's kind of just a smaller slump. I don't think the Boston Bruins are in the position, like, for example, the Pittsburgh Penguins are, where you may be in a slump for a longer time. I think this is going to be a shorter slump for the Boston Bruins, but that is kind of the biggest thing, at least going into the beginning of the season, what type of team and how well will this Boston Bruins team start at the beginning of the year. You've got a couple of additions in Victor Arvidsson and Tanner Jeannot are some of the more notable pieces that Boston added during the offseason. It's the top of the season, but they don't really have any injuries right now. Nobody's set on IR at the moment for Boston. For your goaltending tandem, you have Jeremy Swayman, who has kind of been your main top guy in terms of goaltending for the past couple of years, ever since they lost Linus Ullmark to the Ottawa Senators. So Swayman's been your guy. Swayman's going to be your guy. Backing up Jeremy Swayman, you have Jonas Korpisalo, who is, I think, going to be a solid backup, but I think, it's going to primarily be Jeremy Swayman's net unless something really crazy happens at the beginning of the year or if Swayman goes down for a period of time. Notable forwards for the Boston Bruins, you obviously have David Pastrnak, you have Lindholm, you have Geeky, and you have one of my favorites, one of the younger kids that was traded to the Boston Bruins from the Toronto Maple Leafs in Fraser Mitten. In my opinion, he's definitely somebody to look out for. I just like the kid's game and excited to see what he does for this year. Defenseman, you've got McAvoy, you've got Lindholm, you've got Zadorov, and you have Chicago Blackhawk legend Henry Jokiharju. So it should be entertaining. Like I said, I think there's a lot more question marks in kind of what this season is going to be for the Boston Bruins. Are they going to be was last year kind of like a 1-year slump, similar to what the Washington Capitals had a couple of years ago, where they slumped, picked up Ryan Leonard, moved around some pieces, and now they're, as far as I can tell, good to go? Or is this going to be more of a longer slump, possible rebuild? Only time will tell for the Boston Bruins. And I think the other biggest question mark is, they have the potential to be set up for success. They have a lot of great guys and they have a lot of great pieces, but I think there's if everybody's firing on all cylinders at the beginning of the season and if everybody is healthy, then I think the Bruins have the potential to do some damage, especially during the beginning of the season. I think they can get to a hot start. However, I think if there's a slower start for the Boston Bruins, I think you're in a little bit more trouble, but it's kind of where Boston is right now. They have the potential to be very good, and they still are a pretty good team, but they're definitely going through their own battles right now in terms of, a lot of roster changes that they've had in the past couple of years, guys retiring, newer guys coming in. But time will tell. Very, very early days with the beginning of the season in terms of what's going on in the city of Boston. And we have got more with our first Monday preview. We have Adam back talking about the Montreal Canadiens. Welcome back to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
All right. So we got the Montreal Canadiens. What do we need to know? What has kind of changed in the offseason that's kind of big, aside from Demidov and Lane Hudson, which we will get to in a second. But aside from that, you guys have made some interesting moves throughout the summer. What do we kind of need to know as outsiders of the Canadiens world?
Sure. Yep. Kind of the biggest acquisition for us this summer, at least in my eyes, is Noah Dobson. Kind of adding a little more veteran presence on the blue line.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that, our team is still very young. So having a guy with a little experience playing against the big guys, kind of give them a little guidance to help kind of solidify things on the blue line will be good. Of course, like you mentioned, a couple of rookies kind of stepping up this year. So far, it looks good in the preseason. Obviously, like Lane Hudson last year was killer. So we'll see if he can repeat his success with a team that's got a little more of a foundation built.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure we'll get into predictions, but I think things look good this year.
I'm hoping for you guys. For what's kind of the expectation with Dobson in terms of like where he's projected to hypothetically fit in the lineup in terms of the blue line.
Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him like second D pair.
Mm-hmm.
You've probably got Hudson taking point number one. Of course, they'll probably try a few things at the start of the season, see which of the guys work out best together. But that's probably where he might settle.
Makes sense. Yeah, I'm very excited to watch Lane Hudson. The kid is fantastic. I remember everybody was kind of throwing a fit when he won the Calder, and I'm like, have you guys watched like 5 minutes of his gameplay? It makes sense, and that's not a diss to Celebrini or anybody else that was nominated. I'm like, have you watched this kid?
Yeah.
is insane.
It's unusual to see a rookie defenseman come in and play like that.
Well, and that too, like and granted, you know, this is a little hypocritical coming from a Blackhawk fan with Bedard, but like, I don't think it should be a shoe-in for like the number 1 overall pick to then immediately win the Calder the next year.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like it shouldn't be like a necessary like automatic. Like, you are number 1, all eyes are on you. Here's the Calder, which I mean, if Celebrini won that, it wouldn't be like just here's the Calder, because he did put up some good numbers with San Jose. But I'm like, there's other kids coming. Love it. Let's see, defenseman wise, else any like younger kids coming, or is that kind of Lane Hudson's kind of it?
He's
and
the guy. I don't think you'll see anybody else coming up that'll be close to what we'll expect to see from him.
Oh yeah.
So the pickings are good right now. Everybody that's kind of ready to play is there. I mean, having not 1 but 2 Jack-Eye this year will be fun. I hope he makes the team.
That's gonna be entertaining.
Yeah, I mean they gave Ottawa the business there on Tuesday.
Yeah, you definitely want that, or at least a bit more feistiness. I know the first round of the play, like the first round exit was, I mean, both had talent, but I feel like Montreal could definitely benefit for a little bit more spice in their.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, watching the playoffs last year is like, oh man, these guys are just getting bullied out there.
Which, to be fair, I mean, like we've been saying, Montreal is a very, very young core. I mean, even your like Caulfield and Suzuki, who are like still on the younger end, but like not babies. They're still like, how old is Caulfield?
He's like 25 or something.
I'm like, nobody's really.
And there's no real big guys either in that core.
Yes, aside from my favorite Slafkovsky.
Of course, yeah.
Speaking of the younger kids, we got another young kid on the front end that I had the ability to watch him with his first game at the Bell Center, and it was absolutely insane. What's the Demidov expectation? Aside from him to be great.
Yeah, he didn't play last night, but nursing a little injury after the first game against Ottawa, but wouldn't be surprised to see maybe another Calder-worthy run. The city's that excited about him, I think. Even the few games that he played at the end of last year already highlight real plays from a guy who's just getting used to the system, settling in. So hopes are high.
Yeah, definitely hopes are high. It was definitely really cool to watch just an entire city welcome him like immediate, which like obviously you're going to do. I mean, we saw it here in Chicago with Bedard, but that was pretty cool to watch as an outsider, even though I definitely was walking around in my RDM Lev Chanel jersey. But in terms of, because I imagine, I mean, obviously Demidov's top 6. But are they looking to settle him like on the first or the second? Ideally, where would you want him in terms of like other line mates to settle in with? In a perfect world.
Yeah, that's tricky. I don't know if you want to split up Suzuki, Caulfield, Slafkovsky. That trio works really well together. So that kind of limits him to playing second line. But if he's able to make the plays that we've seen, sticking him with Laine would be pretty sick. Have this talented kid come in, skate around everybody, and then feed it over to Laine to just wire it in.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. And I feel like throwing Demidov, I feel like on any other team, he would definitely be on the top line, but I feel like that makes sense for Montreal because you're right. You really don't want to break up that trio. Certainly don't want to break up Caulfield and Suzuki.
No.
It's just too good. What would you say with the younger kids that are coming up is kind of like bigger things that they need to like work, like the weaknesses in the games that kind of folks are keeping an eye on with the younger kids coming up?
Sure. Yeah. I think there's kind of at least from, some of the preseason games, hard to make a real good judgment on that
Right.
play, but kind of saw this last year as well, but just a little bit sloppy defensively. Maybe not predicting how things will go very well, or just too focused on the offense, getting out of position. I know that San Luis has been really kind of generous with those guys, kind of saying, "Yep, we're still learning, we're still figuring things out, we're learning." So I expect to see maybe a little bit of a cleanup in the defensive game this year, as some of these guys are a little more experienced, a little more used to the big show. Because that'll go a long way to kind of smooth over some of the changes in the goaltending. Obviously, no Carey Price.
San Jose Shark.
Yeah, that hurts. But we don't have like the strongest goaltending setup in the league, certainly. So a little more solid defensive play will take some of the heat off those guys and hopefully let them shine.
Getting to goaltending, because I know that's kind of been not a complete sore spot, but we'll say not a bright spot with the Canadiens the past couple of years. And also, I think for any goaltender, it's a tough act to follow Carey Price and like the run that he had in Montreal. Is it kind of the expectation that like the duo that you have right now is going to be the duo? Like you're not getting like rumors and rumblings of like there may be.
No, I think Montembeault is still the guy. And then you kind of shuffle in Dobesh. He'll probably be the number 2.
Mm-hmm.
But not hearing any signs that there'll be any big shuffles there.
There's no guys down in or like across the river in Laval that you're like maybe.
I think for this season it'll probably be those 2. We'll see how things go. With injuries and anything could happen. Hopefully not, but I think those 2. I mean, Dobesh played decent last year when he was needed, so I think he's still got some room to show what he can do.
I feel like Montembeault though, like a lot of people love to hate him, and like I wouldn't put him in the category of like the Russians that are dominating in goaltending right now. Right. But I feel like there's definitely been times where he has the ability to like stand on his head.
Yeah, there's definitely flashes of it, and so you get some folks comparing him a little bit to Carey Price, like, oh, he's making these crazy saves, but then he doesn't obviously fully live up to Price's legacy there.
It's like, who's going to?
Right. Yeah. You need a pretty substantially gifted player to have that kind of play. But yeah, I think he's still the number 1 guy, certainly. And even for Team Canada going to the Olympics, he's probably in consideration for that team. Maybe not as the first or second, but as a third goalie, similar to what we saw with the Four Nations.
I don't know. I feel like he would be second. I mean, obviously they're going to run Bennington as much as I hate to watch it. But I just cheer for Finland anyway in the Olympics. And I feel like he could go second because, Team Canada really seems to love to leave off Logan Thompson.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the play goes this year if he earns the second spot, but I hope so.
I mean, because the Canada had like a camp, like a camp sort of thing over the summer, same to US, right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and there was some questionable decisions about who they invited. I wasn't really on top of it as much this summer, but
I mean, that's fair. You got married.
A little busy.
Just a tad busy with life. I feel like there was drama both USA and Canada because obviously we had the Hudson leave off and then Mr. Hudson having an issue with it.
Yeah, it's hard to understand how you leave off the Calder winner.
Yeah, I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, it's the Olympics. They're gonna prioritize the older guys, and
of course, yeah, it's their only maybe their last chance for a lot of these guys.
Exactly. And also, I mean, Team USA is going to prioritize the Hughes brothers any day of the week.
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
with any of them. Yes, hello. He's screaming for attention. Hey, we're going to have another cat appearance on the show.
Yay.
Friends, this is Mort.
We love Mort.
We do love Mort. Speaking of Olympic, I'm assuming you're excited.
Oh, yes.
Obviously,
absolutely.
you're Canadian, and this is hockey. What are you most excited for?
Oh, I'd love to see Crosby win another one. I still think back all the time to the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver of him scoring the golden goal. Of course, I know that might be a sore spot for some, but
it's only a sore spot because not even like watching Team USA lose, because I will cheer for Team Finland every international competition, but 2010, I don't like to see Patrick Kane losing. Which if he is not on Team USA's roster for the Olympics, then we're definitely we're Team Finland all the way.
Right. 100% Team Finland.
100% Team Finland, and then if Patrick Kane's on the team, it should be interesting. But I'm also excited for like the smaller the smaller matchups and like the smaller countries that I think folks are kind of counting out just because they're not a part of the Big Four.
Sure.
Should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, like we in the last few years we've seen like the Germans as an example, starting to pick it up. So that's it's always good to see more teams kind of competing. Now, I don't think they'll win it, but it makes
who knows?
For
Leon Draisaitl can put that entire team on his back. I would not be surprised.
If he's hot, watch out.
Yeah, he is. That can go far. But yeah, Olympics should be exciting. Very exciting. It'll be hard to have like a whole month of no NHL hockey though.
Unfortunately, yes, but that's the price we'll pay.
Exactly. Going back to Montreal Canadiens. What, at least for like the beginning of the season, what do you think is the biggest kind of hurdle that they need to get over?
Ooh,
or something where it's like, if they can get over this issue, be it like injury, mentality, a thing.
Yeah, injuries certainly. Obviously, Kirby Dach, not the most resilient player we've seen over the last few years. So if he can kind of make it for the first month, get some confidence, that he's going to stick around, and even just everybody else, because like we said, it's a lot of smaller players, younger guys, maybe not trying to play too physically to prove themselves against some of the bigger guys in the league and just playing their game, but keeping Dach off the injured list and letting him kind of get his feet back under him will be good to give the team some confidence.
If Dach's healthy, your second line is potentially Kirby Dach, Patrick Laine, and Ivan Demidov. Good God.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, give us like 2 more years, and I think we're a contender for the Cup.
I'd be about it. I'm a firm believer that the NHL is better when Montreal is competitive.
Of course.
Same with Minnesota. Like, there's just teams in certain cities where it's just like, it's just better if they're in it.
Yeah, you won't find a better rink than the Bell Center, and then like triple or multiply that by 10 in the playoffs.
Hey, there's nothing better than the Bell Center. I will tell everybody that's the best place to watch hockey. It's not to get blasphemous, but it's kind of a religious experience walking into the Bell Center and just like experiencing the Habs fans.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. Predictions for kind of going in, not just like the beginning of the season, but where do you think they finish? Where do you think they're kind of rocking?
That's tricky. I think like kind of top 2 in their division is pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, do they stay on top of Ottawa, or are they like 4th? That's kind of where I see it. So 3rd or 4th, depending on how Ottawa plays. they seem like a total wild card. So
I feel like they kind of
nice.
go into the same conversation where it's like, if everybody can stay healthy and if everybody's firing at, firing on all cylinders, you're kind of in the same boat-ish.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys have Montreal has more pieces, but y'all are a lot younger, where they have maybe like less pieces, but they're significantly more veteran.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way, I think, to look at it. So it's like, do the younger guys kind of play hot, have confidence going in towards the end of the season and kind of keep rolling, or do they fall off and then the experienced guys kind of hold strong through the season? We'll see.
Do you, out of your division, who do you think is going to be the toughest for the Montreal to play?
Toronto or Ottawa, I think. There's obviously a lot of skill on Toronto, and again, still a lot of experience there, and then Ottawa being kind of a bigger, rougher team, at least on the evidence of the preseason, could give them some trouble if it comes to that kind of game. But I don't think you can discount Florida.
No. I feel like people are starting to like slightly discount them just with the Barkov injury and that they maybe haven't been playing 100% in the preseason. So like those two together, people are like, oh no. And it's like, at the end of the day, y'all are still Florida.
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to become a shit team overnight. So
right. Like Sam Bennett suddenly doesn't forget to play hockey.
Yeah.
Like you still have Bob and Ned. So you're at least
they're in contention no matter what they're.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Last and final Montreal Canadiens question. With the exception of kind of the rookies that are coming in, who do you expect to kind of be the unexpected, like, shining star of the Montreal Canadiens?
Yeah, there's a few guys you could pick from. I mean, Struble or Gooley, maybe. We've talked a bit about that before. Even Patrick Laine, he could suddenly turn it on another gear, and maybe he becomes like a 40, 50 goal scorer. Could happen. If Demidov's as good as we think he is, and we could see, maybe not records broken, but having like two really solid lines could really give us the push.
Oh, that is, especially if other teams in the division are off to like a slower start, and you guys get to a hot start, that should be very entertaining. I can hear Toronto screaming and crying in the distance. Well, perfect. Adam, do you have any last comments and anything that us Blackhawk fans need to know about the Montreal Canadiens? Things that we should prior to this matchup.
Well, I want to touch on Nick Suzuki a little bit.
Yes.
At least in the circles on TSN Sportsnet, they're starting to see that he's one of the top centers in the league right now. Was listening to one thing on Sportsnet there the other day, and they're saying he's top 25 in the league. And I think for most folks, that's not what they think of when they think of the Canadiens and Nick Suzuki. So now that he's got a couple years of being the captain under his belt, the team is kind of gelled well together. We could see him start to take off and really play a key role for us.
Do you? Because I do agree that Nick Suzuki is a great sentiment and that he doesn't get as much like praise as I think he should in the media. Do you think it's has just been taking him a little bit longer to develop, maybe a size thing that he hasn't just gotten like the immediate praise, or is it because Montreal's coming out of kind of the slump that they were in when Suzuki came to the Canadiens?
Right. It's probably a bit of all three. Okay. Obviously with the age of the team, the experience, they're not the most consistent. We've seen, Caulfield go on a pretty cold streak. That's not uncommon. So that hurts Suzuki's numbers as well. So probably just the expectations around Montreal haven't been that high. So he's not in the media in at least across the NHL. Obviously locally he is, but
right.
Now that the league is starting to see, okay, the Canadiens are dangerous. They'll be there in a couple of years, or could be this year. We'll start to see, maybe more of him in the conversation for the Olympic team and for recognition. So we'll see. Things look good. Things look
very good for Habs fans.
Yeah, didn't say that a few years ago, but feels good now.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for coming on and breaking down the Montreal Canadiens. It should be a fun matchup. I can't promise that we're good, but it'll be entertaining. And gosh darn it, it's just good to have hockey back.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. Tuesday can't come soon enough.
Truly, truly. All right. That is all, folks. And we will talk at you guys next week.